So, my other little video of lettering was such a hit that I thought I'd been thinking about this, but no, I thought I don't have to say anything profound or anything, just demonstrate and talk out, you know. I have to say something interesting to go on, to have any reason to go on. We'll see how that goes. That I almost don't have any control over. I have a little, let's see. There it is. No, didn't catch it. Little uncertainty in the brush. It'll probably come out again when I palette it. So there it is, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is it. I'm cover that up. Didn't want to start that high, but I had to cover the ink. I have an ink pen. I had to get out an ink pen to give me some lines of reference. My chalk. This is chalk. This is powdered charcoal. I use what's called a pounce machine. Some people would know about sewing wheels, star wheel for sewing, that pokes holes. You pokes holes in the pattern paper. This one is an actual, does it with an electric kind of spark, an arc. Absolutely necessary. All sign painters used to have them, but now they are, I don't know if they're manufactured, I think so. They're new, but the price has gone from like $200 to $700, and I actually found one in town for only $85, and it's fancier than what I used to have, because this one is, I never needed the Pounce Senior, which is what this is called before. I'm going to have to fix that later. It's too far, up too far to accept. The problem with that stuff is that the background color for a lot of these is I'm rolling on a latex, and if it was the real lettering world, you wouldn't put latex over oil. This is oil paint. It wouldn't stick, but it would be fine. So I'm going to have to repair that right there later. So what was I saying? Can't remember. Oh, so I've got the Pounce, the Electro Pounce, and with it I'm able to use tissue paper. And the really great thing is that I get to turn the machine down so low that it doesn't bother the rest of the appliances in the house, which it does if you have to have it up high to get through, like I used to get what they call butcher wrap, unwaxed butcher wrap. Much thicker. Tracing paper is as thin as paper gets, or something. So I can turn it down low and it won't make chattering sounds on the TV if somebody's watching. So that is pretty great. 1, 2, and 1 down. So, what else can I talk about? So, as I've said before, this is the first time I've ever enjoyed lettering. I mean, it would be okay. The main thing was I was a happy camper when I was watching baseball. Baseball would be on in the corner. And that would be tomorrow, I know of. Maybe there's one today even. I'll have to check. But that's the way to watch baseball. You got to be doing something else, and when the situation calls, you know, when the situation is interesting, you look. And otherwise, you just listen to it. Perfectly. Anyway, I've passed many hours that way and enjoyed them, and now I'm all set up to do it again. Only this time, this time's different. The other time you have to make an O, a perfect O, maybe 1.5 inches. Maybe with this brush, I couldn't do it in a million years. Let me try one, just to prove it. You used to be able to make an O in 2 strokes, maybe a little touch up. I doubt I can do it now. Not too bad. But you would do this for 8 hours at a day, in a day out in the heat, a lot. It's just as good as you can get. If you see a hand-lettered sign anymore, you just go, my God, that was so crude. The really good guys, I was never a good lettering guy. I didn't work in a real, I didn't learn from real sign people. I learned from someone else who was self-taught. Now I gotta go back and fix this. I don't need to know anymore. Neither does anybody else. But needless to say, you just go on hour after hour making O's and S's and wish it was "25 years of it." Didn't like it. Never enjoyed a minute of it till now. Well, I mean, I didn't mind it. Like I said, the baseball days. It's perfect. Anyway. So I thought of, you can buy, for $10, you can buy a domain name and have it pointed at an existing website. And I thought of naming this category, calling me Montana Crafts Addict. I grew up with well, there was ceramics in high school. I'm sure many people know that route. I'd stay after school, and I'll tell you that I walked home so many nights. I wanted to throw pots so bad, but you'd get outside and it'd be 10 below. And you'd have about 6 miles to go. Never got picked up. Great Falls, Montana. Didn't put out my thumb either, but I mean, hitchhiking was I hitchhiked a lot of times when I was young, but not high school. It just... So you walked... Anyway, so there were a lot of nights you'd be like, oh, God, I wish I'd have got on the bus. Dark out. I always want to read. This is a good... It's a story. It's all I need to do, I think, to make this appealing. But I asked some people that didn't know who Ted... I'm going to get his name on. Kluzinski was. The Unabomber. Didn't know who the Unabomber was. Well, if you're one of them, he sent pipe bombs to professors and stuff, and he did it so much that he got the New York Times to, I guess it was almost a whole page of him going on about what he saw coming and how bad it was, you know, hatred of technology, you know. It was long before computers, I think. I don't think the internet was even around, so it's about something else. But he, when they discovered him, he was living in a cabin near Lincoln, Montana, which is about 60 miles from Great Falls, where I grew up. And the story I'm here to tell is that of all the coverage, including the fact they actually took his cabin, which had no insulation, they took his cabin to his trial and in Los Angeles or something, and it was just boards, no insulation, and I never heard a reporter, and it's just a little mountain town, you know, nothing going on, but it was a way station on a major kind of distance between Great Falls and Missoula, I think, and I'm pretty sure. I never heard a reporter mention, because that's all you'd have to call it, the fact that there was a bronze plaque maybe within 5 miles of his house, his shack, that commemorated the lowest temperature ever recorded in the lower 48 states, which I think was 72 below, and it would have been, they think it would have recorded lower, but the winds were howling and blew the equipment off. The machine for measuring the temperature got blown down, so that's how I remember it. Anyway, so they never mentioned it, that he was living there. He was living there. Now I'll have to think of another story, because that one's over. There's another one. I've always been a slave to the design in front of me. I have never allowed myself to make mistakes, basically. I mean, I should be able to take all kinds of liberties with this. It's nothing, you know, the absolute, there's nothing, you know, it's not a physics formula you can't deviate from. But I was never able to do it when I did this for a living. And which made life hard, very tough, because I would have to stick with it, and there's really, you know, when there, like now, there's no reason. I can go here or there and it not matter. No one's ever going to know, but I couldn't back then. Now see, this is a problem, and I'm doing it. I'm making variations. This is way off. There it is. It goes way back in there. I might even be able to narrow it up, which is what it's supposed to be. Now, if we're getting close to the center, I can zoom. No, here, I think we can adjust it this time. Yes. Okay, we'll make that the center. Ah, there it is. It's all the way up. All the way up. All the way up. There we go. And again, I've lost my train of thought, but I feel much better about finding out where this was supposed to be. I had a chance to make it narrower than I'd done it before, but I didn't. It's a little bit thicker than it should have been. See, I don't need to do this, but I sure can't. It's hard not to. I find it hard not to. But I'm back on track. I see where the design goes. There's one. Okay, got that one. And one more point. And I'm going to have to fudge a little. Oh, it's not even, you're not even seeing it. I know it goes here, so go ahead. You gotta touch the tip because the paint will be thick on the edge and you won't be able to get a point out of it. See it chatter along the canvas? I don't know if you can see it. Perfectly. There, you can see me holding the, I know it's out of view, I think the brush is out of view, but you can see how I hold the brush. That's interesting too. Crucial, critical. I've thought of this, that I know someone who's close to some of the Indian community in Montana. And I suggested that if this takes off, that I come out and teach, see if I can help someone learn how to, some people, some Native Americans, figure out how to letter enough to start making them. And I just don't have any problem with any of the issues of ownership and stuff. You know, it's just commercial art for me. A reason, an opportunity to practice my craft. Now I have to jog over. Very good results. So you have to have the brush thin enough at the tip to chisel, and the paint thick enough in the body to cover. Because if you can't kind of milk some paint down to that edge you're trying to make straight, it's gonna have to be repeated. That's not what you like. That's a lot of paint. So let's say I start an art blog. Let's say this is the art blog. I thought of this stuff last night. It's the first thing out of my mouth. I mean, in my imagination. I haven't had any art conversations with anybody. Basquiat and everything back to Dali. Especially the Warhol years. We will just forget. If somebody says, "What is it?" or "I don't know what it is," they're right. It's nonsense. I mean, I saw a guy I couldn't believe, because John McLaughlin, they used his name, John McLaughlin. I was thinking that was the name of a reporter. It may be. And then I just now thought of, there was a musician named John McLaughlin, outrageous guitar player back in the day. And but there's an artist that was an unknown artist, John McLaughlin, and he's doing more or less Oriental things. Ukiyo-e, the floating world, is what they call it. So he has these canvases nobody's ever seen before. Oh, I'm going to have to move it to find something to show. Okay, wait. Where is it? Okay, right there. Let me see where it is here. Yeah, so Ukiyo-e, anything Oriental, but yeah, it's hard to, I don't know. You know, is it art? Is it craftsmanship? Those are I mean, they do ask those questions in art. In art, you know, when you're a student, they talk about those things. You know, what is art? What can we consider valid? And I'm here to say all the stuff no one could, you know, the public couldn't relate to. The public was right. It's nonsense. You see a de Kooning with smiles in it? What the fuck is that? Sorry. He does all this action. Well, it's not what that's a technique. That's an actual category. The whole thing was a plot by the reviewers. The reviewers led the art movements. They'd say, "Oh, this is new. Oh, this is new. Oh, this is new," and they just chased from one fire to another. But it was the critics that, and they were all wrong. And so we are happy that we get to have a John McLaughlin, but it's, when I grew up, the idea, art, the word art was like one step beyond philosophy. It was It was philosophy in action, let's say. You know, being worked out in the physical realm, let's say. I don't know. But that's why it's called what it is, art. And the other part was that, for me, what they meant was painting. Not music. Painting. I don't know why, but it's silent. It has not. It's not like taste or smell. That there's any reaction to it that can be even. I don't know. But like this John McLaughlin, it's beautiful balance and stuff, and you get to be there while it's going on. But it's silent, and I can't think what you'd compare it to. Something in nature that you'd compare it to. But that was it, art. The last word. And I don't think that was always the case. You know, it was. That's the reverence I came to it with, and I'm sure that means everybody else. It would have been a media thing. We would have all learned the same things. So everybody had the same conception that it was art in capital letters. And the only thing that I know of that's anyway. So. We had Duchamp and Dali, and I don't know who else there is. These Picasso and all those guys, they were ambitious. They wanted to be thought of as the next big thing. And what does an artist do? Does anybody ever think about it? How the hell are you an artist all day? You're going to get up and start painting? I thought about it. If I've got 40 years of what I consider artwork, and in those 40 years, the actual hours making those paintings couldn't be 100. I haven't thought about it, but that's a start. Couldn't be 100. Couldn't be maybe 75 is a stretch. I'd have to think about it. But so what do you're an artist. You get up and you paint. They were ambitious. They wanted to be you know, I respect no one more than Manet. He would be the only consideration beyond Duchamp, back beyond Duchamp. Painter I loved was Courbet. Look him up. He had this fascinating thing. I got chosen, or he chose me to do I made a copy of we did so little work, you know, as students. Their standards were so lax, and there wasn't an equality of skill. The art school I went to was actually basically was in business as a Saturday school, but it kept all these people who I think knew each other going back, and somehow they decided to start an art school, right? I think that's how it worked. What point was I trying to make? Oh, so I copied a Courbet, and I discovered in Courbet all these all of these because you look into the background of the paint of paintings, you're looking for the structure that we attribute beauty to. Another favorite was I mean, when you go back and look at it, you have, I'm talking about me, what, I had 3 or 4 instances of insight, or, you know, having my breath taken away. And what do you think it lasted? 3 or 4 minutes? That was it. That's it. What else would I talk about? But Courbet, I got to, you know, I had to study for my, you know, study it and look, and I saw Corot was the guy I wanted to talk about. Camille Corot. I can say I loved, but I promise you, I've looked back at the stuff, and there was one painting that triggered my admiration, and other things didn't ring the same bell. But I'm happy with Corot. But Courbet, what a character! He's worth the story. He's worth reading about. He was a real character. He was breaking all the rules, and there's one portrait of him, a very famous one, where he is walking along the road. It's a self-portrait, and he meets someone obviously part of a, I don't know how to do this, a highly respected society, member of a highly respected, I don't know what to call it, back when being in business at all was considered a lower caste. It was. Anyone, and if a person was a merchant, for the people we're talking about, there couldn't have been they had some kind of give, but not much. And so here's Courbet walking down the road, and he meets one of these people from that society, and as I remember, the other guy is the one who doffs his cap to Courbet. And Courbet is like, I don't know if it's one of the ones who's got his little pipe in his mouth, but I mean, he's just flaunting his, I don't know what to call it. He was quite a character. But the thing I found, what I was going to talk about was, the thing I've studied his paintings, and you look for elements of, you know, in art school they talk about elements of composition that go beyond what you can do with you know, normal photography. You can find a composition that exists, let's say, but in art you can actually manipulate it. In painting, you can manipulate it. And so I started looking for all that stuff, and I found over and over in Courbet, and when I wrote about it, my teacher was like, "Whoa, I never saw that." But he had, you'll find over and over, you'll find these ovals of, here's an arm, there's a woman I know that's, this is like, she's holding something like this, but it's not, that's too obvious. There, over and over, he's having characters that generate these ovals, and then you can take paintings and you will find big ass circles they put in them. We're talking about huge paintings back, around the Renaissance and stuff. You will find shapes that give peace or something. I don't know what to say. I mean, the experience of looking at a painting, how long would that be ago? We're in 150 years ago. Before photography or what? I don't know exactly. But it would have been completely different than it is to us. They, I don't know what, but it was a big deal. Art was a big deal to them. But I still don't think it was with the capital A that I gave it when I was young, or that I mean, I think critics or art history books tried to give them an elevation, as if somehow, I don't know, Cezanne, I can't talk about these things, I just don't know enough about them, but what was Cezanne doing? My God. Years before anyone. I don't know why he isn't talked about more in the vein of how did he see beauty in the things that he was producing? I mean, to produce them in the first place, to a landscape that it's about its abstract elements, I guess. And he went off chasing them where no one else was. And these guys all lived by themselves, and I don't think Courbet or Cezanne had much society. They wanted to be recognized and to come up successful. They did the artist archetype or whatever, metaphor, I don't know what's the word I want, where they were starving artists. But I think a lot of them would have been supported by their fathers. He would have had the purse strings. So many of these artists were people who were choosing to head off down a path of their own, and they were cut off, and from funds that they would have been able to have if they would have gone into law or something, or whatever they might have done. But they were ambitious. They were ambitious. There was no purity. There was no purity to their efforts. That's how I was brought up. Was that there was some kind of idealistic search for beauty, or and truth in beauty or something. But they were doing it because they were ambitious. So they weren't necessarily open to the possibilities, because they were feeding off each other and, you know, continuing the discussion in their way, but it wasn't the ideal that I thought art was going to be about. This has to be enough. See, there's one big one. There's that. There's one, 2, 3 points. One. It's just running up here. I think it wants to happen way back. Oh, I can't believe it. This is supposed to be the first of the 3. I'll do that and I'll be done. Go off on my own. Baseball hasn't started yet, otherwise that's what I'll be doing. The game will be on in the background, and when something exciting is happening, I'll start paying attention. That one's too big, so I'm going to have to adjust everything, including the next shape over here. That's just like against my, it's always been against my religion. So I'm trying to, it's not the same thing. But look at me, that's ridiculous. You have to need to touch the very bump of weave. I'm letting things be a little off. The originals, I saw one in a movie or something the other, I know what it was, on a documentary. It was just I think it was just a piece of furniture kind of, but it was what an original one of these looked like. The colors are certainly not the same, and so these designs they don't have the everyday flaws that people weren't concerned with when they drew a shape or painted on bisque pottery. Sometimes I think they might not have even been bisque, which is, which makes them smooth and glassy, kind of. And still a ton of texture, but the brush strokes and stuff are raggedy. Nothing else to call it. But we're not doing that here. No, it's still working. It's got a big sign that says calendar has stopped. Who cares about calendar? Let's see how close we can get to this. Wow. And keep it and still be in focus. Oh, there it is. There's focus. That right there. Wow. Where is it? There it is. That stripe in real life is about 3/8 of an inch. 5/16 little anyway. And I use tape in there, but I used tape that color was, that the pink was already there. I taped up above that edge, and then I used the same thickness of tape to space to that piece of tape. So I did this edge, which is a real edge, then I did this, which was a spacer, right up against the other one, and then I laid down this one. Then to get this, more accurate throughout without drawing, after this, After that piece of tape that masked that, I put on one more just so that this gap would be smaller and easier to eyeball. But look at the chatter, look at this nonsense in there. You can't imagine how tiny it is. I can't find it. Find the brush and bring it over here. Look at that little spillage. In full size, which is, let's see, full size. It's almost not worth bothering about. I'll probably go back to it. Fix it. Isn't that pretty? It's a beautiful composition. There, we're going to talk about photography next. People were looking around to take a photograph. There are perfectly harmonious, enjoyable. What's enjoyable? For a moment, you can find a photograph any moment, at any given moment. Look at the purple in the cigarette lighter. I'm not saying anything about this, but you get to make a little decision. See, watch that. See that? You want to go in? What's happening over there? Don't know why. Oh, I don't know what's causing it, but you can find a more acceptable composition in here, and have that be what you call your photograph. That's a dynamic, incredible image right there. I'll save it. Oh, I don't know if it'll take a photograph, but I'm done anyway for now, so I'll just take a photograph. Oh, my drapes are blowing. Look at that. Brings out the color in the purple. And then there's the raggedy paper towel. Yeah, that's good.